Welcome, Patriots, to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi coming to you live from just outside Chicago, where millions are watching worldwide on YouTube, Rumble, and X. What sets us apart from every other show is we're here with you, reading your live chat, getting your real-time reactions to the day's explosive news. So share the stream right now. Text it to your friends to bypass Big Tech's algorithm. Our X viewers, repost this show to your followers. Let's break their censorship walls together. Now, today marks a pivotal moment in American history. On this day, June 2nd, 1953, Queen Elizabeth II was crowned in Westminster Abbey, beginning a 70-year reign that would see the British Empire transform from global superpower to a shadow of its former self. The pound sterling, once the world's reserve currency, collapsed under decades of socialist policies and currency debasement. Sound familiar? Well, today we're witnessing America at the same crossroads, but this time patriots are fighting back. Trump's Week 19 is delivering a revolution that would make our founders proud. Now, as you're watching and you want to support the show privately, you can hit the donation links in the description. Every dollar keeps independent media alive when they're trying to silence us. And you can head to shop.nextnewsnetwork right now, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com right now, and show off your favorite news source with our exclusive merch. New designs have dropped that will trigger liberals on state. Before we dive into today's bombshells, we've got Super Chats and Rumble Rants coming in hot. Good to see you guys. Yes, deport them all. Build the wall. We see you all. And that's going to be going on screen between segments for the world to see. So keep the Super Chats flowing. We're reading every single one. And listen up. Become a YouTube channel member right now. Each membership level unlocks exclusive perks, special chat recognition, behind-the-scenes content, and access to our members-only 24/7 Discord where the conversation never stops. Click that join button and become part of the Next News Inner Circle. Week 19 of Trump's return, and the gloves are completely off. ICE is conducting the largest interior enforcement operation in American history. A terrorist attack in Boulder proves exactly why Trump's immigration crackdown can't happen fast enough. Congress is about to pass the biggest tax cut and spending reduction in decades, and Florida just declared financial independence from the Federal Reserve. The establishment's in panic mode. Absolutely. Remember, we're streaming live to millions worldwide, so if you're on Rumble or X, make sure you're following us there too. The censors can't stop us when we're on every platform. This is guerrilla information warfare, and you are our army. Send in those Super Chats now before we even start the first segment. I'm going to feature them on screen so your message reaches millions. Today's topic will shock you. We've got exclusive footage of ICE raids happening right now in sanctuary cities. Video of the Boulder terrorist attack that has media desperately trying to memory hole it. Trump administration officials destroying the economic doomsday narrative with hard facts, and an exclusive interview with the man who just helped make gold and silver legal tender in Florida, ending the Fed's monopoly one state at a time. Remember, every purchase from a merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com directly funds this broadcast. No corporate sponsors, no deep state money, just patriots supporting patriots. And if you become a channel member, you're not just watching the revolution, you are funding it. Special shout-outs to the chat, exclusive Discord access, behind-the-scenes content, all waiting for you. So the next couple hours will change how you see everything. The border invasion is being reversed. The economy is roaring back. States are abandoning the Federal Reserve, and the terrorists that Biden let in are being hunted down. This is the restoration of the Republic happening in real time, and you are witnessing history. So get ready for the Raw Feed, unfiltered, uncensored, and unstoppable. It starts now. Let's welcome you to the show. Steel Mill, Dean Nice, Arnold Schmidt, Sabrina, Overeducated in the house. Who else is here? Miss Pothead, Kenny, Parmistex, Donna Lundy. We've got Karen Finley. We've got Robert Lockhart, 3%er Prepper. We've got Villain in the house. We've got Resto Guy 1, Derek Martin, and Lori Newland dropping a super chat, $2 already. Let's just put that money where it belongs, shall we? Right into the Alex Jones was right jar for the world to recognize. What else? We've got Nancy Pelosi's liver has just dropped $10. What's up with that? Holy cow. Let's see where we're at. And Juan Ruiz has already dropped $2. Okay, Juan Ruiz. Boom, boom, boom. $2 from Juan. We'll put that, some fiat money, right there into the jar. Some fiat paper. Yeah, there we go. Nancy Pelosi's liver, $10. What is he saying? Oh, boy. And Juan Ruiz has already dropped another $2. Come on, Juan. We got a show to do here. I know you guys want to give me money. I'll take it. But, hey, you know, give me the Goldbacks instead. All right, we got Nancy Pelosi's liver, $10 in the jar. Who else? Viet of 3 Afternoon, Gary. Still rocking the facts that no one will touch. Blessings, man. $20 he dropped to present that fact. Thank you. I appreciate those facts. Those are real facts. Nancy Pelosi's liver says, happy hours enforced by law. That's hilarious. That is so funny. All right. Okay, we got a lot of news to get to, and we are behind schedule, as usual. But hey, that's how we do it here. So let's get to our first trivia question of the evening first. In 1895, President Grover Cleveland faced a severe gold crisis that threatened to collapse the U.S. monetary system. Which controversial action did he take to save the gold standard? A, he confiscated all private gold holdings. B, he secretly borrowed $65 million in gold from J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds. C, he abolished the gold standard temporarily. Or D, he ordered the U.S. Mint to stop producing gold coins. Remember, you can answer in the poll in the chat room, or you can just drop A, B, C, or D in the chat room or in the comments below. Remember, don't skip ahead if you're watching on repeat. Okay, don't Google it. Just put your answer, what you think it is. It's okay. We will announce what you guys think in the chat after and give you the real answer. Now, let's get into our first big topic of the night. This is revolutionary, my friends. A seismic monetary earthquake just rocked America's financial foundations. After decades of Federal Reserve manipulation, currency debasement, and wealth theft through inflation, one state has fired the opening shot in a revolution that's sending shockwaves through Wall Street and Washington. What started as street protests 15 years ago has now become law in the Sunshine State. Patriots, who remember our End the Fed rallies, who studied under Ron Paul, and who mourned Aaron Russo's warnings, your vindication has arrived. The banking cartel's century-long stranglehold on America's money is cracking. Gold and silver are back as real money. The details of this historic victory will absolutely blow your mind, so keep on watching. And just as Florida breaks free from fiat currency manipulation, you can protect your own wealth from the Fed's destruction. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by 2031. While Florida implements gold as legal tender, smart Americans are already moving their retirement savings into physical precious metals. I trust Noble Gold Investments because they make owning gold and silver simple with transparent pricing and zero pressure, no call centers in India, no games. And when you open a qualified account, they will even send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Visit nextnewsgold.com or call the number on the screen, 877-646-5347 right now, and join Florida's gold revolution by protecting your own wealth. And speaking of protecting wealth with gold, Florida just made history by making gold and silver legal tender, the first major state to challenge the Federal Reserve's monopoly. I sat down with Daniel Diaz, the architect behind this revolutionary law, for an exclusive interview about how they defeated the banking lobby and what this means for your financial freedom. Watch what he revealed. Our guest today helped write the most revolutionary monetary legislation in over a century, making gold and silver legal tender in Florida. And he's here to explain the mechanics of the bill and its practical application. But to understand why this victory matters, let me take you back about 15 years ago when our movement took to the streets demanding an end to the Federal Reserve's stranglehold on America's money. Watch.
We have to tell them, we have to demand that there will be no more bailouts for Wall Street. There will be no more bailouts for the auto industry. We have to let the system collapse upon itself for it to right itself.
On the 98th anniversary of the Federal Reserve, the Restore the Republic campaign held massive rallies nationwide to call for an end to the Federal Reserve system and reform the current monetary process.
The End the Fed rally that's going on in 38 cities across the country at all the branches. This is the main office of the Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private bank. It's not a part of our government. It's a organization that's been stealing the prosperity of our country for almost 100 years.
Outside the main Federal Reserve in Washington, concerned Americans call the system unconstitutional.
Once we declared independence, the colonies started printing out their own money. But now that power has been taken away from Congress and is solely in the hands of the Federal Reserve.
Getting revenue through inflation is easy. Therefore, we get more of what politicians want, and we get less of what we want.
They also blame the mishandlings of the Fed on the current financial crisis.
Bernanke held a gun to our head asking for the bailout. Anything that he says will make the market go down. So, it's just outright that.
I think it's brought on by the deteriorating economy for some, and others it's a longer-term awareness of the Federal Reserve being sort of a hijacker of our economic system that's supposed to belong to us through Congress.
Obama is a puppet for the New World Order. I don't expect Obama to do anything.
Most say Obama will not be the change they can believe in because he is connected to big business and is surrounded by advisors who represent corporate America and the Federal Reserve System. The nationwide events taking place in dozens of cities around the country are not only calling for an end to the Federal Reserve, but also the congressional discussion and implementation of H.R. 2755.
2755 calls for the abolition of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. What that would do is basically dissolve the Federal Reserve System as it stands today. We need to push for that because what happens, the Federal Reserve is printing this money. And what happened in 1913 was the government gave their own power to print money to a group of private individuals. Now they loan that money back to the government and they charge us interest. So we have to wrestle that power back from those private bankers, give it back to its rightful owner, the government, the people, and restore sound money to this country.
Most attending the End the Fed rally say lawmakers cannot bring about a solution to the ongoing economic crisis because they caused it, and the real change can only come about through the efforts and education of a people's revolution. Jehan Hafiz, Press TV, Washington.
Now, just 1 year later, I rallied patriots with a simple message in Chicago. Watch.
To end the Federal Reserve System, return to sound monetary policy, bring the money back to the American people, back it by silver, back it by gold, not by the slavery, not by the blood and sweat of the American people, not by signatures on credit card receipts, not by signatures on mortgages that are backed by nothing. We the people are taking the power back. And if you don't stay with us, you will forever have your heads in the sand, and you will forever be victims to the monopoly that is the Federal Reserve. Take it back.
That's right. Take it back.
Let's roll, baby. And here we are. After decades of fighting alongside Ron Paul, G. Edward Griffin, and the late Aaron Russo, what many thought impossible has just become a reality, and it just happened days ago. Watch.
Just hours ago signed a bill making the coins legal tender. This legislation allows but does not require their use for payments, including taxes and fees. Government entities that opt into accepting these coins must do so electronically and partner with licensed financial institutions. The bill also exempts gold and silver coins from sales tax.
And then Governor DeSantis himself announced this historic victory. Watch.
The bill I'm going to sign today is legislation that is going to allow Florida to recognize gold and silver as legal tender in our state. And we have the ability to do that under the federal Constitution. There are only 2 states that have done it thus far. They're smaller states. We are the first large state to step up and to get this done. And this is right out of the Constitution of the United States. So this legislation will authorize money services business like check cashers or PayPal to transmit and accept payment in gold and silver. That means these precious metals can start functioning like real currency again, not just investment vehicles for the wealthy. And you notice what's happened in recent weeks and months. How has gold gone down or has gold gone up? Gold's gone up big time because investors are looking at this and they're hedging against, they see the bond yields have gone up. I think they moderate a little today, but when people start seeing that, gold is a place they're going to. So it's not just an investment, it'll be something that you're going to be able to use, and it's something that is very likely to hold its value, certainly compared to fiat currency. Now, we've seen the downgrade in the credit rating over multiple administrations. We've seen a lot of problems with the D.C. swamp. This is our ability to give you the financial freedom to be able to protect yourself against the declining value of the dollar. And so I'm really appreciative of the legislature for doing this. I think this is something that shows Florida is continuing to lead on a lot of the issues that matter to people, and I look forward to signing this into law momentarily.
Now, it is my absolute honor to introduce you, joining us, Daniel Diaz, who helped write this historic legislation. His Citizens for Sound Money organization turned our movement's dreams into law, and I couldn't be more happy to welcome Daniel to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Gary, for having me on.
Absolutely historic moment for the people of Florida, and just really the opening shot against the Federal Reserve. Daniel, HB 999, I personally like the number 999, like 999 pure gold. I don't know if that was intentional. Maybe you can have some insight because you helped write this. It represents the culmination of decades of sound money activism. So how does it feel to finally achieve what Ron Paul and others fought so hard to accomplish?
It's extremely humbling to be a part of the movement and to be able to get this passed in Florida. I mean, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. You know, Cities for Sound Money, you know, there were people who laid the groundwork before. As you said, Aaron Russo, G. Edward Griffin, Ron Paul, and others. Edwin Vieira is one of the top legal tender experts in the country. There's two legal tender experts, Larry Hilton, who work closely with us in helping us educate the drafters of the legislation. You know, we've spent hours and weeks with the Senate staff that actually penned the law. So it's been extremely humbling to get this done in Florida, and it's bringing liberty and freedom, most importantly, economically. You know, it's I got into the sound money movement, the gold sound money movement, gold and silver, traditional hard money, about two and a half years ago. Prior to that, I was in the digital hard money, which was crypto. And prior to that, I was a stockbroker. So I knew about the fiat economy. I think God brought me through that path, through fiat, to crypto, to hard money, to get a better understanding of how the economy worked. And when I realized what the Federal Reserve was and what the dollar was, a debt instrument that was created to steal the economic energy and wealth of the people, man, it just fell in line with my life mission to prevent what happened to my family's country to happen in my country. Because
I want to get into that. I want to get into that in a moment, because now you helped draft like every provision of this bill. So what makes it different from symbolic gestures in other states? You know, we've seen Utah and other states have come forward, but why is this bill like the real deal?
Yeah, so Florida was the 10th state to get it done, and then Texas just passed it I think yesterday or Friday. And they're the 11th state. So now there's 11 states that have made gold and silver legal tender. Of those 11 states, only 4 have made it functional electronically. It's Florida, Arkansas, Missouri, and Texas. And what makes those 4 states different from the other states that have passed gold and silver legal tender is that people don't use gold and silver typically in transactions. You see that in Wyoming, about 30% or more are using Goldbacks, merchants that are accepting Goldbacks. Utah, the same thing. Goldback has done a great job. That's a fractional gold currency that's actual 24 karat gold. And they have thousands of merchants that had chosen to accept Goldbacks for the payments of goods and services. So that's another fractional real way to use it. But other than that, and then just bartering with gold and silver, those laws that were passed was great constitutionally, and to elevate a very important part of making gold and silver legal tender. It elevates it from personal property and puts it at the same level as money as Federal Reserve notes, which gives it a lot more legal protections. So, you know, that's a question that really comes up. Why do we have to push something that's already constitutional? I mean, if you don't know the history of what's happened with gold and silver, then the easiest way to explain it is right now, gold and silver transactions are considered barter transactions. It's personal property, and there's tax implications when you use gold and silver when it's not legal tender. So the difference between what we've done with Florida, Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri is we've made gold and silver, which is a form of money that we've used for millennia, it caught up to the 21st century. So now you can use a debit card. You can transfer gold and silver electronically. You can have a POS system at a merchant store, scan your QR code and pay with gold, saving the merchants 200 to 300% on transaction fees for credit card transaction fees. So what it does, it allows the normal person to use gold and silver in daily transactions versus before they'd have to go out and buy gold and silver. That could be
okay. So
people,
I want to go deeper into the practical mechanics of it, but if you could see on your screen there, it looks like an individual. I just searched this up on X, found this post. Looks like a person's pulling some Goldbacks. Is this what Goldbacks are? It's literally
This is
gold.
this is a Goldback wallet, and it's really gold. I mean, I have a.
Oh, you have one.
I have several. Yeah, I have a bullion business on the side, so I have quite a few Goldbacks. But yeah, this is the Florida Goldback. So Goldback has a contract to make Goldbacks for every state. So there's Utah, New Hampshire. I think there's six states right now that have Goldbacks. But yeah, I mean, the smallest denomination is a half Goldback. This is worth around $3.30 right now. So
okay, so let me just ask you this. So what? Okay, what you're holding there on screen, that's a Goldback, and that's actually a weight of gold.
Yeah.
Correct?
At the bottom it says 1/2000th of a troy ounce, 24 karat gold. And underneath that it says exchangeable by Goldback Inc. and U.S. gold coin to bearer on demand. So not only is it gold, it's a negotiable instrument, which means you can turn in 2,000 of these and they'll give you a U.S. minted coin.
Really? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the practical mechanics. You're just going into that. Starting July 1st, 2026, how can Floridians actually use gold and silver for taxes, commerce, and savings?
So if the law is not compulsory, it gives the state the permission to accept gold and silver electronically. So if a municipality, county, state, or public university chooses to accept gold and silver for payments of debts and dues, they would have to first open up a public depository. A qualified public depository, in layman's terms, is basically a credit union or bank that's authorized to hold public funds of the state. Once they do that, they will be clear to accept only electronic gold and silver. They didn't really put a provision for physical, which is something we can do in the future. But essentially, let's say like Indian River County, which is the county near me, you can go to your local municipality and then pay your property taxes with digital gold and silver with a debit card, or if they have a POS system, you can scan the Q card and pay with gold and silver. When it comes to merchants, right now, there's hundreds of merchants that accept Goldback or gold and silver for purchase. In fact, there's like 8 businesses where I live that accept it. And you can pay for your coffee. I've done that before. And if you give Goldbacks that are worth more than the bill, they give you change. Goldback has a calculator for merchants. You just put in the bill total, how many Goldbacks they need to pay, and then what in fiat currency you remit as change. So it's very practical, very easy. The technology in the gold and silver industry is there. You know, our organization right now, we represent 14 gold and silver companies in the industry that want to see the sound money movement progress and are very interested in the work that we're doing, not just across the country, but we are getting interest from other countries like Ireland. We have a meeting with somebody in Ireland, Australia, Germany. They see what's happening in Florida, and they're reaching out to us wanting to bring sound money legislation to their countries. So it is a revolution, like the Ron Paul revolution, but it's the sound money revolution. Wow. It's just sparking, and it's incredible. And I truly am humbled to be a part of it right now. And if it wasn't for everybody before us that laid the groundwork and educated and worked hard, this wouldn't even be possible.
No, I remember Edward Van Nothaus and his Liberty Dollar, and how he was trying to incorporate that coin, that round, the silver round, into the economic system. He got in a lot of trouble for it. They hated him for it. They prosecuted him for it. They confiscated all of his gold and his silver in that organization. And now we've got this Goldback. Can you how is this Goldback different from like the Liberty Dollar, for example?
Yeah. So the problem with the Liberty Dollar, it violated a USC code, 18486. I'm paraphrasing it. Maybe you can pull it up. But it basically says, unless authorized by law, if anybody utters or attempts to use any gold coin or silver coin and pass it off as U.S. dollars or U.S. coin, you could be federally imprisoned for up to 5 years or pay a fine of $10,000 or both. So because he was passing off and putting $20 on the silver coin and trying to pass it off as U.S. Legal tender just through his marketing, that's what got him in trouble. No, if he would have done this, what we're doing, gone state to state to the individual legislatures and said, hey, let's make gold, silver coinage legal tender. They got it done. He could do that because the first few words of that USC code says, unless authorized by law. So it was a private company minting gold and silver rounds, and it said $20 on there, but it was authorized by that state. He would have been fine. But the problem is he did it completely private, put $20, and I would even recommend not putting $20 or any dollar sign or making it seem like it's a official U.S. minted coin, because even that could get him in trouble. But if he would have just done it the way that we're doing it, he would have been fine.
Wow.
So Goldbacks, what's interesting about Goldbacks, which a lot of people don't know that use it, is it's a negotiable instrument, which is a federal law, federal statute that basically allows a company to make a promise, a contractual promise, that if you turn in X amount of this negotiable instrument, you will receive this much money in return. Since they're using U.S. minted coin, which is gold specie, as that negotiable instrument, de facto, because it's redeemable, it kind of falls under this umbrella that it's also kind of legal tender as well. So it's Larry Hilton is a very smart attorney. He's the one that helped develop this entire concept.
Okay, so the electronic transfer system, it's revolutionary. You've explained it. How does this qualified public depository framework make using precious metals as convenient as Federal Reserve notes?
So the qualified public depositories is for the state. But to become a private company, and the reason why we expanded it to 36 pages is because what we were bumping into with the Senate staffers was that they were concerned about constitutional questions. What happens if the state makes gold and silver, electronic gold and silver legal tender? That's bills of credit, and then creating. We only have a 4-week session in Florida, and to rewrite an entire regulatory framework would have been difficult. So what Larry and his legal team did was he found current Florida regulations through the money services business licensing and the QPDs, and he's like, "Oh, it's already there. The law's already there." We told the attorneys, like, "Hey, let's just change the law to accept gold and silver as part of the electronic transfer, and voila, we got a bill." And we didn't even have to create new regulations. We just used current law and modified it for gold and silver companies and custodians.
Oh, man.
It was fantastic, man. It was great. I'm like, Larry, you're a genius.
You found the silver bullet right there, literally.
Yeah. Which makes Florida the model for every other state, because every state has a money services business license. So all they got to do is just modify their current from just Federal Reserve notes and banks and credit unions and allow new custodians of gold and silver and just change their current regulations. Florida is the model for electronic transfer of gold and silver, hands down.
So you solve the small transaction problem with the Goldbacks, fractional silver. How do these innovations make constitutional money practical, though, for everyday purchases?
Well, I mean, right now it's all about reducing friction, right? So right now there's a lot of friction in using gold and silver in daily transactions. You have sales taxes, you have the federal income tax, capital gains tax. You also have state capital gains tax. So there's still states that charge sales tax. We're about to get rid of that in Florida. There's still states that charge capital gains at the state level as well. What we're trying to do with the movement, with Sound Money Defense League, Economic War Room, Citizens for Sound Money, Missouri Freedom Initiative, those are the main 4 sound money organizations that are actively lobbying and pushing legislation, is that we want to get rid of all the tax barriers, which makes it easier and less friction, right? Like right now in Florida, if you buy less than $500 in gold and silver, you got to pay sales tax. A lot of people not a lot, well, technically a lot, 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So a lot of people don't have the money just drop $500 in one purchase. So they hold and save and then they buy it. Getting rid of sales tax decreases the friction. And then the fact that you can spend it with a debit card, which I have a couple of debit cards here that are backed by gold and silver. I have a TrueLink card through the United Precious Metals Association. I also have a Glint card, and there's a company called Kinesis that has a virtual debit card that you can just tap it and it'll sell your gold at spot. Or with Glint and Kinesis, you can actually just send gold and save.
Yeah, I've got a Glint card here. They were actually one of our sponsors a long time ago, and I don't know what happened to them. They fell off the face of the earth. So Glint is still around then.
Yeah, they're still around. They're working very closely with Economic War Room. Jason Cousin travels with them around the country. So yeah, they're still here. They're it's like the gold and silver companies. Nobody really knew what we were doing in Florida, right? It just, boom, it's in the news. Like, we're working behind the scenes, working the legislative process, doing what we need to do to bring sound money to the forefront. And then when you got a big, like, dude, we had 9 states that had made gold and silver legal tender prior to Florida, and it didn't really get a blip in the news because the other states were pretty small. The minute Florida, because we beat Texas, Florida's still in the news. Texas just did it. We're the first large state to do it. Now Florida and Texas have done it. I mean, it's massive. When you combine the GDP of Texas and Florida together, we're the 4th largest economy in the world if we were a country behind Germany. You bring all 11 states together, we're right behind China and the U.S. with GDP.
Okay, so I got to ask you this about the banksters, right?
Yes.
You got the globalist banksters, the central banksters of the world who have been working tirelessly since 1913 to manipulate America's money supply, to steal the wealth of the American people. I mean, FDR confiscated the nation's gold in 37. I mean, and then Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71. Like, so many things have happened. Like, these architects have been working for decades, okay, to control America's money supply. Suddenly, you guys come in, you find a silver bullet that's already on statute, you just make an amendment to it, you get it pushed through. What kind of pushback did you receive? I mean, you talk about, kind of doing this quietly, which of course something of this magnitude you'd have to, but I'm sure like the banksters of the world must have gotten wind of this. The Federal Reserve central bankers were like, wait a second, what the hell is Florida doing? What are they up to? Like, was there any pushback you experienced?
We got pushed back a lot more last year when we tried to push the legislation. This is our 2nd year in Florida. And last year, we couldn't get a hearing. We don't know why. We can only speculate. We know that Senate President back then, Senator Pasadomo, just wouldn't give us a hearing. And the banking lobby is very powerful in every state. We don't know if it was that or not. What we do know is that last year they were doing a whisper campaign fighting against the legislation because the JP Morgan Chase lobbyist kind of let that out when he was laughing about the fact that we didn't get anything done. And I'm like, okay. There's like 4 or 5. They have like 6 lobbyists in Florida, and the JP Morgan Chase lobbyist is one of them. This year, they were more like an omnibus, like, entity in the back of the committee just watching. The one thing that they really pushed back on is they didn't want it mandatory for banks to take gold and silver. They wanted it optional, which is fine. I mean, we didn't really care if they wanted it or not, because the goal is to create a parallel economic system, making it easier for people to use gold and silver. So this year they were at the committees, they were a part of the negotiations, and especially where they really did push back, which we were trying to get companies like Kinesis, Glint, and so forth to become qualified public depositories. They pushed back hard. The credit unions and the bankers, and even the attorneys, that was a hard line that we touched on, and we're like, whoop, that was too much resistance to try to get other entities to become qualified public depositories. So right now, it took the credit unions 9 or 11 years, I heard from another lobbyist, to be qualified, to become a qualified public depository. They just got it last year, the year before. So bankers and the credit unions, they're very powerful, and they worked real hard against the legislation in Texas. They worked real hard in Louisiana. And then, we've modified the bills, and as we modified the bills, they've kind of backed off. So we don't know how they're operating. They're there. They make their presence known.
Here's the thing. Bankers, right? They deal in fiat, paper, right? They create money out of thin air with fractional reserve banking. You'd think that they would want to have some gold on their balance sheet. This is an opportunity for them to start slowly building up a solid gold repository in their own institutions. Yeah. Like, what is their? I mean, listen, if they had gold on their balance sheets because people start depositing gold, they could even increase their fractional reserve banking power. Like, why would they be against something like this?
I don't know if they are. I had an interview this morning where a similar question came up, and he asked my opinion. What do I think about the bankers with the gold and silver? If you zoom out outside the U.S. and you just look at what every other central bank in the world is doing, and you look at Basel III, and they elevated it from a commodity to a tier one asset, which is more like a currency. Heck, the head of the BIS, I believe, even said that gold has been acting more like a currency than a commodity over the last couple of years. And you see how many tons of gold and silver they're accumulating. Look, the world is moving towards digitizing real world assets. That's the future currency. They are implementing blockchain technology. They're already digitizing bonds and treasuries across the world. That is the future. So I don't think they're really too worried, because they've done it through Basel III, elevating it as a liquid currency, a tier one asset, and they're accumulating gold and silver. I mean, the Fed is accumulating gold and silver. I mean, everyone is. So the small banks, I mean, look, the bankers are small associations of the state, and they represent the larger banks. They really care. Those smaller bankers, small mom and pop, 2, 3, 4 branches, they're not really paying attention to the larger scheme of things. They're just trying to serve their communities. But the large banks are the ones that are always pushing back hard. I don't think they're too worried, man. They have the contracts. They're buying gold. But ultimately, like that was another thing that was brought up in my earlier interview, that they control the monetary system, man. They have so much data. Data is the new gold, essentially, because if you can win presidential elections with data, right? And these banks, they're using the same technology on our spending habits. And Amazon also knew that something was coming, so Amazon downsized. These big corporations, these big institutions, banking institutions, they know exactly what we're doing with our money, and they see the trends. BRICS is happening, so. They're fighting against it, and what we're doing is we're not trying to annihilate the Federal Reserve right now. We think that
right now,
right? I think that once we give people the option to choose, right? America is unique compared to the rest of the world. We're the only country in the world that operates on one currency. Every other country in the world operates on 2 to 5 or more, and we're spoiled because we've been the reserve currency for the world. By doing this and creating a parallel economy, we're now in line with the rest of the world, where people can choose which currency they want to save in, spend in, and so forth. And I think that we're going to use more gold and silver. People are going to stop putting their economic energy in currency, which is a tool to steal the banks and the governments to steal your wealth. Gold and silver is where you store your economic energy to keep up with the theft, right? I think as we educate more people, right? It's what it is.
So
gold and silver doesn't make you rich. It keeps up with the theft of the government and the central banks. So
perfectly said.
Yeah. And that's what we're building, right? Like, I believe in the free markets. I'm a libertarian economically, and I think that people will choose the best options for them when they realize what this means, that they can put their money in gold and silver, spend it with a debit card. Look, I travel this country pushing this legislation, and the two most devastating stories that I heard from people was when I was in Missouri last year. We got to the Senate. I had just finished meeting with the chief of staff of a Democratic senator that voted for the bill, and I called an Uber, and the Uber driver passed by in a brand new Escalade. I'm like, well, she looked quite old. So I called her, and she came back, and I got in the car, and she was old. And I'm like, ma'am, do you mind if I ask how old you are? She's like, no, not at all. I'm 78 years old. And I'm like, why are you driving Uber? She's like, well, I'm a widow, and my husband's Social Security, my Social Security, and our retirement doesn't pay me enough to eat. I have to drive Uber to survive. If I don't drive, I don't eat. That's one story.
Wow.
Another story, I was in Florida in April. I went to a church where they were talking about getting involved in government, and I talked about what I was doing, and then after I finished talking, we prayed. I saw this old lady sitting next to me write something. I thought she was taking notes. She slid it across my desk, and I have it here somewhere. She said, my name is Beth. I'm a 94-and-a-half-year-old woman, and I'm outliving my money. Please use me as an example next time you talk. This is a story of just two people, but that represent 78% of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck with not $1,000 to their name. When I walk into a room now, when I walk into a restaurant, a bar, I immediately look around. I'm like, 4 out of 5 people here statistically are broke, and they don't know why. They don't know why their paycheck isn't going as far as it did last year, the year before. That people don't understand monetary policy. They understand that they can't buy the same amount of stuff, and we have a C3 called Sound Money Movement. It's our education foundation. We're currently creating education, free education for adults. We're also creating curriculum from pre-K up to the university level to provide financial literacy and also provide sound money literacy as well, so that we can educate the masses. Number one problem with every movement is education. You know that being part of the Ron Paul revolution. People didn't know anything about the Fed. Ron Paul brought a huge spotlight on the evils of the Fed and fiat currency. And that's what sparked our founder, the late Jim Forsyth, to find City Sound Money. He was the New Hampshire campaign chair for Ron Paul. He also led the strategy in the 2012 RNC convention to try to get Paul in as president through the delegates.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ron Paul sparked him, which sparked him starting this organization, which sparked me getting involved in helping push this legislation. It's just the shoulders of the people we're standing on made it possible. We're just reaping the benefits after 54 years of fighting for sound money. We finally got the first one in 2011 through Utah, then in 2008 with Wyoming and the other states. And finally, 22% of the country has now recognized gold and silver as legal tender.
I applaud you, sir. I applaud you wholeheartedly, man.
Thanks.
I mean, I remember marching in the streets, organizing those End the Fed rallies, and just the movement that was just a groundswell, with Ron Paul and Aaron Russo and Edward Griffin. You brought up Edwin Vieira. Like, I mean, these guys are the godfathers of the work that you're doing now, and you're fulfilling, and it's amazing. But as somebody who's your family fled Castro's Cuba,
yeah,
right? You've seen currency collapse firsthand. So, how does that experience inform your approach to monetary reform?
Yeah, I grew up hearing stories about my family and why they fled Cuba. They had land, they had farms, they had a construction business, and it was all taken away from them. Literally everything. And I don't know if you know this about communist states, but every communist state has a communist informant on every street and every floor on a condominium. And their job is report to the government if you break any party rules or government rules. Well, my grandfather, everything was rationed after the revolution, and my grandfather paid the butcher some extra money to get some extra meat for the family. Well, the communist informant found out, the communist police came in, they arrested my grandfather, put him in jail, and when he was released, he's like, we need to go. So they packed everything they could. They got to the Havana airport, and they confiscated everything except for the clothes on their back. If it wasn't for family and friends in Miami, my family would have been on the streets. So my grandfather, being in construction in Florida, saved up money, bought a truck, and he started pouring cement, contracting with other construction companies. This was in 1965. And from that, struggling, he would go to the store, buy pies, cut up the pies and sell it to his workers for a little extra money. From that, he built his construction company up. In the 80s, he sold it. Retired in his 50s, left an inheritance. And, he fulfilled the American dream. And that's why I dedicated my life at the age of 16 to prevent what happened to my family's country from happening to my country. And ever since then, I have been involved politically. And as an activist, then working on campaigns, everything from presidential down to municipal, running PACs, super PACs. And between that, I took a sabbatical. To get my master's, and I got into finance. And I left that, went back into politics, and then I learned about crypto and Bitcoin, and that is the story of how I got into the sound money movement. Bitcoin pointed me to gold and silver, and then the rest is history. And
Unbelievable.
For your audience listening, if they want a full understanding of the economy, one of the best educational resources that changed me, gave me a 180-degree paradigm shift in my worldview on monetary policy. It's called Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. It's a 10-episode series. Every episode is about 30 minutes, except for the 8th one where he gets into crypto. That's an hour and a half. But if you watch that entire series, you'll know more about monetary policy than 90% of Americans. And if you can only watch one episode, watch episode 4. That's the most important episode to understand the theft and the lies and the Ponzi scheme of the Federal Reserve and central banks.
And it's called The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney.
Yes. Yeah, and it's free. It's on YouTube. You can also go to his website on, I think, goldsilver.com, I think it is. But it's the number one resource. In fact, with my side hustle, my bullion business, I don't hire anybody unless they watch that series, because they need to understand what we're doing, why we're spreading sound money, why we're trying to get gold and silver in the hands of everybody. And they need to understand that by putting your economic energy in gold and silver, you're preserving it. When you leave it in dollars, it's being stolen by the government.
Now, I want to ask you about other states. They're watching closely. Yeah. You mentioned Texas. What is the roadmap that for spreading this constitutional money framework nationwide? What other states are you going to target next?
Yeah, so we got it done in Missouri. I'm waiting for them to call me. I'll be at the signing of the Missouri bill. Texas, they're waiting for the governor to sign it too. So our number one focus at Citizen Money, even though we worked across the country with other states, was Florida. Florida was my home state. I had connections, and it's the third largest state population and economically. Then we had economic war room working in Texas, and both states got it done. So our number one focus were those two states. If you notice, all 11 states that have made gold and silver legal tender are typically red states. It's a nonpartisan issue. I mean, we got complete unanimous support in Florida. It's one of the rare times there's not a single Democrat votes against it. There was one Democrat that voted against it, and then the bill sponsor, I want to give him a lot of credit. He's the hardest working rep in Florida, Representative Doug Bankston, talked to that Democrat, and he changed his vote to a yes. So we had a clean sweep across the state of Florida with Democrats and Republicans. Same thing in Missouri, same thing in Texas. I mean, Democrats are supporting this because this is a nonpartisan issue. This is an economic justice issue. And that's how we frame it when I'm lobbying and testifying in committee, because of the 78% of people struggling.
It's interesting to use those words, economic justice, because it mirrors a lot of the language of the left that, social justice and everything's about justice for something, climate justice. So when you kind of frame it in that term, economic justice, you're capturing some of the language that's soft enough and friendly enough for them to go, oh, yeah, this is about justice, but it's about economic justice. That's clever.
Yeah. I took that from Kevin Freeman from Economic War Room. It's part of his book, actually, Pirate Money. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. There's Hidden Secrets of Money. Yeah, and that's where I got it, because I think the title actually does say Discovering the Founders' Hidden Plan for Economic Justice and Defeating the Great Reset. And it's a fantastic, it's a great talking point. I mean, we have gotten so much support from the left and the right on this issue. So what about the future, you ask? Well, I heard a rumor through our contacts that are in the Trump administration that Trump's been keeping an eye on this legislation. And if it got done in Florida, in his home state, that he might push to do something federally. I don't know. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. So if he does that, then there's no reason to continue at the state level. But if he doesn't do anything, our focus right now for the rest of this year, there's only a few states that have year-long sessions. You have Ohio has a piece of legislation that hasn't moved. Pennsylvania, we have some friends and lobbyists who are wanting to bring it in Pennsylvania. They have a year-long session, and there's one other state that I know has a year-long session. So this year we're going to focus on that. But next year,
sadly we know. Like, it's one thing if you're operating at the state level, right? The Federal Reserve, the banksters, the criminal globalists, they can infiltrate all that. They can use their lobbyists all throughout and try to keep it all separate, because you're still operating in 50 states, right? The minute, we know what happens when presidents challenge the Federal Reserve System. Yeah. Look what happened. There's a lot of people that think what happened to JFK is a direct result of his executive order to restore silver to the dollar. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons that we could speculate about what happened to JFK, but if people point to that as one thing, so, but you have on good authority that Trump is actually watching this whole thing play out and could find a way to implement this at the federal level.
Yeah. Well, the guy loves gold. He has gold toilets, for crying out loud. He calls it the golden age. There's a lot of news about Fort Knox, and it's died down a bit.
Well, he went silent about that. We were tracking that. And when I was at the White House, I'm a White House correspondent. I don't know if you know that, but we have hard passes so we can go to the White House and ask the questions. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask with respect to what happened to the Fort Knox audit. Suddenly, him and Elon Musk went totally silent on it.
Yeah, I think the gold is there. I just don't know if the ownership is there, right? Like I think the gold is there, and I don't know if you noticed, but the U.S. has been calling a lot of contracts for physical delivery of gold.
Yes,
So,
they have.
I think that they're trying not to replenish the vaults. I think they're just trying to get unallocated gold to into the vaults to balance out where it's lent it out, right? Because I don't know, who knows? We really don't know what they're doing. Ron Paul tried. He admitted. I watched one of your videos. He admitted he didn't know what's going on with the gold. I do think it's there. I just don't know if we own it. Is the question.
Okay, so I interrupted you by talking about the federal action there. You're about to get into continuing on with the roadmap for the next states.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of red states left to go. We're only at 22%. The goal is 100. So we're going to continue looking. Look, I testified in Alaska. Alaska did very well. They have a 2-year session, so we got it all the way through. We got it to the State Affairs Committee. It's sitting in the Finance Committee right now. What we're going to do next year is get it through the House and get it to the Senate. There's multiple states that tried to push some type of legislation. There's like 20. Last count I had was 24. I've heard 27 states had some type of sound money legislation this year. So far, only 5 have made gold and silver legal tender. Arkansas made the electronic system this year. I don't add them to the 5, so they already had legal tender. But we are going state by state, and I always put on our phone number and put our email for anybody who wants to bring legislation. If they have connections to any legislators, or if they're a legislator themselves that are listening to this and they want to bring sound money legislation, reach out to us. We have legal tender experts. We have success in 2 of the biggest states with our partners and ourselves. Just reach out to us and we'll work with you to try to navigate the system. And every state is different. Every legislature.
I want to point out for everyone watching, we do have the link to the organization directly in the description of the video, so you can go and track that. Do you want to shout out the phone number so people can write it down, or is that something?
Yeah. It's 877-749-1776. 877-749-1776. The way I remember it, 7 is God's number, and then 49 for the 49ers, and then 1776.
Amen.
Yeah.
Now this whole thing, it honors the legacy of Griffin, Paul,
yeah,
Aaron Russo. What do you think Aaron Russo would think about Florida actually implementing what he warned America needed?
I think he would be ecstatic. I think a lot of people didn't think they were going to see this happen in their lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And before we got Utah passed, he passed away in 2007. So I think he would be ecstatic. Andy Schechtman, when I was on their channel last week talking about the Florida legislation, he even said, I didn't think I'd see this in my lifetime. He congratulated us. And a lot of people in the movement for 50 years, basically, nothing, banging their head against the wall. Ron Paul ran for president and grilled Bernanke and grilled the Fed in congressional hearings. Nothing. And all of a sudden, it's like a crack happened. They just kept pounding that wall. We saw some light, and we just broke right through it. And now every state is starting to see the benefits of this, and it's just blowing up, man. And it's a true movement, a true financial revolution. And it's not going to be a violent revolution. It's not going to be like we're going to overthrow like the Marxists. We're just giving people free choice. We're giving people the option to choose between gold and silver or a theft mechanism.
Amazing. For patriots who've been in this fight for years, what is the most important thing that they should know about using this victory to advance monetary freedom?
Talk to everybody about it. If you are a sound money advocate, you're a patriot who knows about gold and silver, point to Florida, point to Texas. The way that Florida goes, the way that Texas goes, the nation goes. And I always had a theory that once we get to about 25 to 50% of the states to make gold and silver legal tender, it will be enough pressure on the federal government to get rid of all the other barriers to use gold and silver as legal tender, get rid of capital gains, elevate it back to the status that it's always held until the fiat standard happened in 1971. And just spread. It's all about education. You need to carry around silver with you, carry around Goldbacks. Talk about how this, a $20 gold piece Used to buy, a tuxedo, top hat, shoes, pocket watch. Today, an ounce of gold can do the same thing, but a $20 bill can barely get you a pizza, right? Like, just educate people about it and point to our successes. 11 states have already done it, and the two largest, which are the most important, because the other 9 states, I'm telling you, got very little coverage. Florida, it's all over the news. You saw it on your video. You're looking for something else, the price of gold, and you saw Florida pop up. And everybody's the interview circuit is insane for me right now. Like, it's because of the Florida legislation, and people want to know. They want to know the details. They want to know what's going on. How did this happen? It's been a lot of hard work with a lot of people before us, and we just have been blessed that the perfect timing. You had the collapse in 2008. You had, which got Utah to pass it. You had COVID that got the rest of these states to pass it, and just speeding up because of BRICS, because of the treasury notes, because of the bond market. I mean, everything is collapsing as everybody's predicted. It's taken a lot longer. They've been predicting a financial collapse since the 70s, the late 70s. It just took a long time because all the tools the Federal Reserve has and the government has. But it's finally here. The fiat experiment is failing, and we're setting up a safety net by creating a sound money economy running parallel with the debt economy.
Daniel, I'm going to leave it right there. God bless you and the work you're doing. And I know that Aaron is looking down on you and the work that's happening in Florida and through your organization with a big smile. And so many people who have been pounding and banging that drum of sound money. Like, we were in the streets with the bullhorns, man, and we were standing outside the Federal Reserve, and we were screaming at the beast, and now finally it's happening with Florida, Texas, and other states. So, I commend you, and anytime you want to talk, you got some news, do not hesitate to reach out. You have an open door at the Next News Network, okay?
Absolutely. I do want to say this before I go. It was definitely a team effort. If it wasn't for our fellow lobbyists at the Christian Family Coalition, because it's God's money, they were pushing in Florida. Economic War Room was very instrumental in getting it done. It was a team effort, because us alone against the forces that are trying to fight against it, it would not have been possible, because the sound money movement is a movement of organizations and people working together for a common cause, freeing people from the chains of debt and slavery of the fiat system.
Amen, man. Amen. God bless you, Daniel. God bless you and everyone working with you.
Absolutely.
We look forward to having you back.
I look forward to coming back.
All right. So what we've witnessed today is a historic vindication for every patriot who ever challenged the Federal Reserve's monopoly on money. From those first End the Fed rallies to Florida's groundbreaking legislation, the sound money movement has proven that organized citizens can defeat entrenched banking interests. Daniel Diaz and Citizens for Sound Money haven't just passed a law. They have created the blueprint for America's monetary independence. While the Federal Reserve debases currency and enslaves through debt, Florida offers constitutional money that cannot be inflated away. So the victory, this one, it honors Ron Paul's courage, Griffin's scholarship, and Aaron Russo's warnings. It validates everyone who believed that returning to constitutional money wasn't just possible, but essential for preserving freedom. So the beast is not buried yet, but Florida has struck a mortal blow. So there's a link in the description. Visit citizensforsoundmoney.org to join the movement that is restoring honest money state by state. The revolution that I was a part of, that I joined 15 years ago, is finally winning, and it's not over yet. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So this changes everything, patriots. Florida hasn't just passed a law, they have lit the fuse on a monetary revolution that will spread to every state. When citizens can pay taxes with gold, when they can swipe a Goldback debit card at the grocery store, when they can escape the Fed's inflation theft legally, the dollar's monopoly dies. The banking cartel fought this tooth and nail because they know what's coming. Once Americans taste real money again, money that can't be printed into oblivion, money that actually holds its value, there's no going back. Daniel Diaz and Citizens for Sound Money, they've given us the blueprint. Texas followed immediately. 10 more states are mobilizing, and the Federal Reserve's 112-year reign of theft is ending. So here is my question for you. Will you convert your savings to gold before the dollar completely collapses? Just drop a yes or no in the comments. And Patriots, if you want to show your support for the Next News Network, drop into our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. All right. How was that interview? Wasn't that awesome, guys? Yeah, I thought so. Going down the rabbit hole. Prove me wrong. You rock, Daniel Diaz. Juan Ruiz is in the house. Snowball back to the gold and silver standard. Let's see if there's any super chats to speak of before we get into our trivia answer. Looks like Karen Myron dropped $5. And Karen says, let's start feeling that Alex Jones was right, Char. There you go. If you think Alex Jones was right, put your money where your mouth is. Into the jar of truth. And fund this operation. Every dollar adds up. Okay, what is the answer to our trivia question? The answer is B. He secretly borrowed, excuse me, $56 million in gold from J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds. Cleveland's desperate deal saved the gold standard, but gave Wall Street unprecedented power over U.S. monetary policy, setting the stage for the Federal Reserve's creation in 1913. Thanks, Grover Cleveland. He went to the frickin' J.P. Morgan and Rothschilds. God, the rest is history. All right. Speaking of history, we have another question. During the Great Depression. Oh, wait, what did you guys say for that one? The last one, you guys all said it was A, he confiscated the private gold. No, you were wrong there. Yeah. Nice try, guys. No, that was FDR who confiscated the gold. All right, next trivia question. During the Great Depression, which controversial economic policy did FDR implement that mirrors what Democrats claim Trump's one big beautiful bill will do today? A, he raised taxes on the wealthy to 94%. B, he cut government spending by 50%. C, he claimed tax cuts would starve the poor while secretly enriching his donors. Or D, he abolished Social Security to balance the budget. So what did FDR do during the Great Depression that implement that mirrors what Democrats claim Trump's bill will do today? All right. You guys get those answers ready. We'll go to your poll and find out exactly what you guys believe. So far, you say cuts would starve the poor. That's where you're at right now. Answer after this segment. The Sunday shows just witnessed a brutal execution of every Democrat talking point of Trump's economy. Administration officials, armed with devastating facts, are leaving liberal hosts speechless. What the media desperately tried to hide is now exploding across every network, and the numbers don't lie, the results can't be spun, and the American people are seeing through decades of economic deception. While Democrats scream about imaginary disaster, something remarkable is happening to your wallet, your savings, and your future. The establishment's worst nightmare is unfolding. Trump's economy and his economic team is delivering exactly what they promised. The truth they revealed on the Sunday shows will fundamentally transform how you view everything. And we've got it all lined up in nice, perfect little segments just for you. And while Trump's economy surges and America's strength returns, there's one thing secretly sabotaging millions of men, and it's probably in your kitchen right now. Most guys blame age or genetics for low testosterone, but the real culprit is healthy food destroying your hormones. Sculpt Nation's Test Boost Max contains 8 natural ingredients that help restore healthy testosterone without prescriptions or injections, and they've helped thousands of men reclaim their edge. Watch their free video exposing this testosterone-killing food and learn how to naturally boost your levels. Go to sculptnation.com/NNN because the real economic power starts with personal strength. Now, Treasury Secretary Bessent just delivered a knockout punch to the media's inflation hysteria. We've got the clip, and watch as he calmly destroys their narrative with pure facts they can't dispute. Inflation is actually falling for the first time in years. This is must-see TV that exposes how wrong the press has been. Watch this.
We wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist, that the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right. But you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers.
65%. That smackdown left the host visibly shaken. You see her like, yeah, the best inflation numbers in the 4 years, completely destroying their talking points. But he wasn't done demolishing the Democrat lies. The media keeps pushing deficit fear porn while hiding the real numbers. Now watch him reveal how Trump's team is actually shrinking the deficit, something Biden never accomplished despite all of his promises. Watch.
One of the reasons I'm sitting here talking to you today and not at home watching your show is that I was concerned about the level of debt. So the deficit this year is going to be lower than the deficit last year, and in 2 years it will be lower again. We are going to bring the deficit down slowly. We didn't get here in 1 year. We didn't get here in 1 year, and this has been a long process. So the goal is to bring it down over the next 4 years, leave the country in great shape in 2028.
Oh, I can't wait for 2028. But that means Donald Trump won't be here anymore. Who's going to take his place? Who's going to rise up? Well, let's just enjoy it while we can, shall we? And just look to the future as the Trump economy continues to roar. Now, this lower this year, he said, even lower in 2 years. A real plan with real results instead of empty Democrat promises. Now, the Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Vought, dropped the biggest bombshell on CNN. The one big, beautiful bill delivers the deepest spending cuts since 1997. While Democrats claim it increases the deficit. Now, watch him expose their fuzzy math and reveal the massive $1.4 trillion deficit reduction that they're desperately trying to hide. Watch.
This bill doesn't increase the deficit or hurt the debt. In fact, it lowers it by $1.4 trillion. What some of the watchdogs have done is they have used CBO's artificial baseline, which doesn't allow and assume that current tax law will be extended because of sunsets that are in the law. They don't do that with spending. It is totally something that would be foreign to any common sense person who comes and looks at how we budget in this country. And so when you assume the extension of the president's tax relief from 2017, this budget or this bill, and it's really a reconciliation bill. It's not really a budget bill. It is using a budget process. This is a $1.4 trillion over 10 years deficit reduction. It's $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings. Obviously, we have a little bit of spending in there as well for border and defense. But that is the biggest mandatory savings package that we have seen since the 1970s, 1997. It's very historic.
1.4 trillion deficit reduction that they're desperately trying to hide. You saw that, right? The largest mandatory savings package since 1997. No wonder Democrats are in complete panic mode about the bill. The Medicaid fraud crackdown has liberals melting down. Vought explains how Trump's plan protects real Americans while booting illegals and fraudsters who've been stealing from you, the taxpayers. 1 in 5 Medicaid dollars is improper payment. That's billions in theft, and it all ends now. Watch.
This bill will preserve and protect the programs, the social safety net, but it will make it much more common sense. Look, 1 out of every $5 or $6 in Medicaid is improper. We have illegal immigrants on the program. We have able-bodied working adults that don't have a work requirement that they would have in TANF or even SNAP. And those are something that's very important to institute. That's what this bill does. No one will lose coverage as a result of this bill.
No one loses coverage except criminals and illegals, right? Exactly what Americans voted for when they elected Trump. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem exposed something massive about China's infiltration of our universities. Harvard alone has taken hundreds of millions from China while foreign students spy on America. Watch now as she reveals how Trump is cutting off schools that sell out to our enemies. Watch.
How much money, or do you know if Harvard has taken money from China?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know specifically, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, because these foreign students for years have paid full tuition. Plus, they've also gotten grants, special, participation in programs that China has financed and brought forward. So, yes, these ties to China are deeply alarming, and they're not just Harvard. There's other universities. We're going through every single one of them. If you come to this country to learn and you're a foreign student, and you recognize the opportunity, that's fantastic. But don't come here and spy on us and take that information back home to an enemy that is working to destroy us every day. And China has infiltrated this country. It's my job to protect the homeland, and I've been given that direction by President Trump. They will not participate in this foreign student program until they clean up their ways.
They won't participate in any federal programs until they stop being China's puppet. That is real national security leadership. The sanctuary city scam is over. Noem lays out how illegals have gamed our system for jobs, housing, and benefits while Americans suffer. Watch her now explain why mass deportations aren't just necessary, they are what voters demanded. Watch.
The president is doing exactly what he campaigned on and what the American people elected him to do, and that's enforce the law. And so we are going to do mass deportations. We are focusing on dangerous criminals. We are going out there and ensuring that people that repeatedly break our laws are being held accountable. And I would say and remind everybody that Congress directs what our laws are. They can change our programs. They can raise visa programs and guest worker programs. They can make it easier for us. We have suggestions, and I'm using all the authority that I have to meet our workforce needs. But also, we need to make sure that our communities are safer again. And those that think we can ignore these sanctuary cities and ignore laws so that we can keep somebody in a job is absolutely ridiculous. That's not what America is about. We have a workforce and a generation of people here in the United States that have been cheated out of jobs because of illegal immigrants that have come into this country and then taken advantage of housing programs and food programs and have had taxpayers pay their expenses. And it's not right. It's not fair. And it's time Americans come first, our citizens come first, and that our economy thrives because we are making sure that opportunities abound for those who live in this country.
Americans come first. Americans come first. The free ride for illegals at taxpayers' expense ends now. Commerce Secretary Lutnick destroyed the legal challenges to Trump's tariffs. Even if activist judges try one angle, Trump has multiple authorities from Congress. Watch him now explain why tariffs are here to stay and China can't stop them. Watch.
Congress gives the president, under this IEEPA authority, the ability to take on other countries who are creating a national emergency. And the $1.2 trillion trade deficit and all the underlying implications of that is a national emergency. It's gutting our manufacturing base. The president takes that on, and Congress lets him do it, specifically does not vote to take it away, calls a vote and says he can keep it. So what's going to happen is we're going to take that up to higher courts. The president's going to win like he always does. But rest assured, tariffs are not going away. He has so many other authorities that even in the weird and unusual circumstance where this was taken away, we just bring on another or another or another. Congress has given this authority to the president, and he's going to use it.
Oh, yes, he is. Congress gave the president the powers, and he's going to use them. $1.2 trillion trade deficit is a national emergency. Kevin Hassett delivered the ultimate reality check on ABC. Kill Trump's bill, and you trigger the biggest tax hike in history, guaranteed recession. Pass it, and we get 3% growth. Watch him now spell out the binary choice that's facing America.
Under the Congressional Budget Office analysis, that they say that there'll only be 1.8% growth over the next 10 years, and then they project deficits. If instead you get 3% growth over the next 10 years, then you don't. And so the answer is, what do you think growth will be? And do you think the odds of higher growth are higher if we pass this big, beautiful bill that has all this supply side stuff in it? And the other thing you have to think about, George, is what's the correct counterfactual? So if the bill doesn't pass, then we're looking at the biggest tax hike in American history. If we pass that tax hike, then of course we immediately go into recession. The Council of Economic Advisors projects the recession would be about 4% of GDP. Usually when you have a recession like that, then it increases the deficit by 6% of GDP. So the idea that it's worse for the deficit to do something that pays for itself if you get 3% growth is just not defensible intellectually, I believe, right now. And I got to say, George, as a final thing, that you'll recall that during the financial crisis when President Obama came in, that for 2 years in a row, he and the Democrats extended the Bush tax cuts because they didn't want to create a recession with a tax hike. So even they recognize that if there was a big tax hike right now, it'd be exactly the wrong time for the U.S. economy and the American worker.
Even Obama knew not to let tax cuts expire during recovery. Democrats are playing with economic dynamite. And Russ Vought also demolished the lie that Trump is cutting cancer research. Watch him now expose how NIH funds have been going to lobbyist parking garages instead of actual medical breakthroughs. Trump's redirecting that money to real research. Watch.
We believe that we need a strong NIH. We think it's important to have cancer research. We still do that under the president's budget that he put up 2-3 weeks ago, not last night. Last night, Friday night, was the technical details. But as it pertains to the NIH, we actually want it to go to cancer research. We want it to go to the research that people think that they have been funding through their tax dollars. We don't want it to go to what we saw in the pandemic when they're giving money to the EcoHealth Alliance. And we don't want it to go to waste, fraud, and abuse by allowing universities to charge far more than they would ever get from Bill Gates' foundation for things like office buildings, parking lots. It's called an indirect cost rate. Right now, we're saying it needs to be 15%. Bill Gates says it's 10%. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40% right now. It's far in excess of what the private sector would expect.
I want to move on, but people who do this cancer research argue that the federal government funding those building blocks, even the office buildings, allows them to spend money on the actual life-saving research.
We understand that the recipients of federal dollars always want more than what the federal government may be willing to do, but we think it's important to look at the private sector and also get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse.
So it is a philosophical switch that the private sector should be more responsible.
It's a philosophical perspective, unfortunately, based on the way this town has been run, to actually model the amount of reimbursement based on how the private sector does, how something like the Bill Gates Foundation would do, and to pare it down so that we're not paying for largesse at schools and universities that have these well-off endowments.
Private sector rules apply now. If Bill Gates won't pay those overhead rates, why should taxpayers? But here's what really has Democrats terrified. CNN's own polling shows Republicans have erased their advantage as the party of the middle class. Henry Enton couldn't even believe his own data. For decades, Democrats own the issue. Now it's completely tied. Watch this moment.
Yeah, you would think after all of the waves, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
This is new CNN polling.
Yes.
How is that, when we look for trends, how is that trending with other data that you're pulling in?
Yeah, if it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan. And again, this is after months of supposed economic uncertainty in which the stock market's been going bonkers, in which the tariff wars that Americans are against have been going on. And yet, despite all of that, the Democrats are down by 12 points on the economy. This speaks to Democratic problems on the economy better than basically anything that you could possibly look at. The Republicans still hold an advantage on the all-important key issue of the day, and that is the reason why, even if Donald Trump's approval ratings are a little bit lower than they used to be, Republicans are not out of the ballgame because they still have a clear advantage on the economy, whether you look at CNN's polls or whether you look at the Ipsos poll right here, in which they have a 12-point advantage on the economy, Kate.
And also in the CNN data, it does show that Republicans are gaining ground in an area that is key relating to all of this, which is when it comes to the middle class.
Yeah. You know, historically speaking, which is the party of the middle class, has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022 where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
All right. There's a lot of messages and a lot to be learned from these numbers and this data. It's good to see you, Harry.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry, I have this habit. It must have been very painful for them to report that. No party owns the middle class anymore. Trump has completely rewritten the political playbook. And Jim Jordan summed it up perfectly on Fox. You know it's a great bill because the left hates common sense, provisions, tax cuts, border security, work requirements, school choice. Watch him explain why Democrats are terrified.
I said this on the House floor. You know it's a good bill because the left hates it. And the left hates it because it has core common sense Republican principles in it. It cuts taxes. It secures the border. It says if you're an able-bodied adult and you're getting welfare, you're going to have to work. And it says to moms and dads, we got school choice in here, so we know you are the best one to pick where your son or daughter is going to get the best education. 4 key Republican common sense conservative principles. That's why the left doesn't like it. That's why it's good legislation.
4 core conservative principles that Democrats despise because they actually work for American families. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So the Sunday shows just proved what we've known all along. Trump's economic agenda is unstoppable. Democrats went on every network predicting doom and recession and catastrophe. Instead, inflation's dropping, the deficit's shrinking, and Republicans now own the middle class vote. The one big beautiful bill isn't just legislation, it's the death blow to decades of Democrat economic lies. They claim that tax cuts hurt workers while secretly enriching their donors. They screamed about imaginary Medicare cuts while ignoring billions in fraud. They defended China's infiltration of our universities while American students drowned in debt. Now their house of cards is collapsing. Treasury knows it, budget knows it, even CNN's own polling confirms it. The era of economic gaslighting is over. So here's my question. Should Congress pass the bill immediately or wait until Democrats beg for mercy? Drop your answer below. And remember, patriots, support the truth. It's shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Now, we did get a super chat that just came through from Mary B. Crabtree. We love our America. We love our Mr. President Trump. There you go. $10 in the Alex Jones was right jar. And actually, let's get to our answer here on the trivia question. And I got to take a quick break here. So the answer to our trivia question, you guys said it was B, cut government spending by 50%, 40, was actually A. He raised taxes on the wealthy to 94%. FDR's tax hike. FDR's tax hikes crushed economic growth while claiming to help the poor, the exact same playbooks Democrats use today against Trump's pro-growth agenda. And with that, we'll be right back. right, we are back. And Mary B. Crabtree just dropped $10 in the Super Chat jar. We are making America super again. Making and living history. Amazing. $10 in the jar. Thank you for that. Put it right there in the jar. Boom. Happy day here at the Next News Network. Okay, so now we're going to get to our next trivia question before our next segment. And it is this. In 1789, which founding father warned that political parties would lead to the alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge? Was it A, Thomas Jefferson, B, George Washington, C, Alexander Hamilton, or D, Benjamin Franklin? You can answer in the poll or in the comments or in the chat room. We will have that answer for you after this segment. What's happening inside the Republican Party right now will determine America's fate for the next century. Behind closed doors, a vicious battle rages between Trump's revolutionary forces and the establishment fossils desperately clinging to power. The old guard thought they could wait him out, thought they could sabotage from within, thought they could return to business as usual. Well, they were dead wrong. What Trump's team is engineering is not just a political victory, it's the complete transformation of American conservatism. And the evidence is undeniable, the momentum unstoppable, and the establishment's panic is reaching hysteria. So buckle up for the inside story. As Trump reshapes the Republican Party, restores American strength, it's time to restore your own vitality. By age 40, collagen production drops significantly, leading to visible aging, joint pain, and weakened hair and nails. Ageless Multi-Collagen provides 5 types of collagen from 4 premium sources, no clumping, no taste, just smooth results. While Trump rebuilds our nation's foundation, rebuild yours with clean, powerful collagen support. No GMOs, no artificial ingredients, just real results. Plus, every order helps feed hungry children through nokidhungry.org. Get 51% off, free shipping, and lifetime coaching at healthwithgary.com. Your body will thank you. Now, Stephen Miller, he just sat down with Laura Trump to reveal the 10-year master plan behind Trump's political revolution. Watch now, as Trump's closest advisor explains how they built the MAGA movement from nothing to become the most powerful political force on earth, completely destroying establishment Republican orthodoxy. Watch.
We're almost halfway through 2025. You've been around for a long time. You've been around President Trump for a long time. Give me your take on the state of things within the Trump administration 2.0, as I call it, and what are the top priorities heading into the summer?
Well, first of all, it's wonderful to be here with you. I've been around for 10 years now. Sometimes it feels like it's only been a year. I mean, just in terms of how quickly time has moved as we've gone through as a nation. This incredible revolution of common sense, as the president calls it, and the birth of the MAGA movement all the way to the height of not just American politics, but world politics, right? The MAGA movement, the Trump movement, sits on top of geopolitics for the entire world as the most successful, influential political movement, changing the entire planet in terms of peace, security, prosperity. What I think about the most as I look back on this short period of time is how the president spent the last 4 years planning and preparing and getting ready for this moment, so that when he took that oath of office on January 20th, he knew exactly what he wanted to do from the moment he stepped into that Oval Office. He knew what bill he wanted to pass through Congress. He knew what he wanted to do on the border. He knew what he wanted to do on trade. He knew what he wanted to do on foreign policy, on military policy, on reforming the bureaucracy, and on fighting and draining the swamp. So we've seen more action and more activity in the last 4 months than any new administration has ever put into effect.
You gotta love it, right? 10 years of planning for this exact moment. Trump knew precisely what he wanted to accomplish from day one back in office. And Miller pulls no punches, describing how Trump obliterated the failed Republican establishment. Every other 2016 candidate was just another version of the same tired status quo. Watch him explain how Trump gave Americans their first real choice in decades. Watch.
Let me ask you about President Trump, because as you say, you've been around for 10 years. You've seen him through a lot. What has changed about President Trump and what hasn't changed about President Trump and the way he operates in the White House?
So President Trump, I've been so blessed, so fortunate to be able to watch him as a leader upfront, close and personal for 10 years. As again, he built the MAGA movement from nothing, from scratch. You know, in 2016, when he first ran, I think, I don't want to insult anybody, but I think pretty much every other Republican in that race was some version of an establishment Republican. That's all the Republican Party had to offer, was establishment Republicanism, status quo. President Trump blew up that whole entire failed system, and for the first time in our lifetimes, gave the American people a different choice, something other than the status quo, something other than, and I know it's a harsh word to use, but we were on a glide path to national suicide. Between open borders, between uncontrolled bureaucracy, between our total surrender on trade and economic policy, the throttling of American energy, the destruction of our culture, our education system, and the destruction of the rule of law.
The destruction of our country through open borders, uncontrolled bureaucracy, and cultural destruction. That's what establishment Republicans were offering before Trump arrived. But the most devastating revelation came from CNN's own data analyst Henry Enton. For decades, Democrats owned the title of Party of the Middle Class by double digits. Now, that advantage is completely gone. Watch Enton's shock as he reveals Republicans have erased a 23-point deficit. Watch.
Yeah, you would think after all of the waves, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
This is new CNN polling.
Yes.
How is that, when we look for trends, how is that trending with other data that you're pulling in?
Yeah, if it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan. And again, this is after months of supposed economic uncertainty in which the stock market's been going bonkers, in which the tariff wars that Americans are against have been going on. And yet, despite all of that, the Democrats are down by 12 points on the economy. This speaks to Democratic problems on the economy better than basically anything that you could possibly look at. The Republicans still hold an advantage on the all-important key issue of the day, and that is the reason why, even if Donald Trump's approval ratings are a little bit lower than they used to be, Republicans are not out of the ballgame because they still have a clear advantage on the economy, whether you look at CNN's polls or whether you look at the Ipsos poll right here, in which they have a 12-point advantage on the economy, Kate.
And also in the CNN data, it does show that Republicans are gaining ground in an area that is key relating to all of this, which is when it comes to the middle class.
Yeah. You know, historically speaking, which is the party of the middle class has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022 where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
All right. There's a lot of messages and a lot to be learned from these numbers and this data. It's good to see you, Harry. Thank you.
They closed the gap, and CNN has to report it. From a 23-point deficit in 1989 to dead even today, Trump has even rewritten the entire political map. HUD Secretary Scott Turner shows exactly how Trump's putting American families first. Over 236,000 new homeowners since January, with more than half being first-time buyers. Watch him explain how homeownership creates generational wealth and defines our national character. Watch.
America's long tradition of home ownership has empowered families since the founding of our great nation nearly 250 years ago. And today it continues to define our national character. Home ownership plays a critical role in the values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, eternal principles the Founding Fathers enshrined in the Declaration of Independence. A home has a price, but its true value is priceless. We understand this truth here at HUD. That's why this June we proudly celebrate the 24th annual National Homeownership Month. We know owning a home is priceless because a home is a place of sanctuary. It's a place of comfort, joy, and safety. It's also the foundation of generational wealth and legacy, a blessing passed from the parents to children and beyond. Under President Trump's leadership, we're firing on all cylinders to help more Americans achieve the dream of home ownership. Since January 20th, HUD has insured the mortgages of over 236,000 home buyers, more than half of which are first-time homeowners. And working with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, HUD has also helped more than 500,000 veterans become homeowners. Finally, right now, more than 7 million households live in homes financed by an FHA-insured mortgage. These are not just numbers. They represent real lives, millions of empowered Americans who have achieved the American dream and enjoy the self-sufficiency, joy, and independence that comes with it. So as we commemorate National Homeownership Month, I promise you, HUD will continue to champion President Trump's vision of homeownership and expand the American dream to families across this great nation from sea to shining sea.
So think about that, right? It's National Home Ownership Month. Not that other month, right? Yeah, celebrate pride in home ownership. 7 million households living in FHA-backed homes, real Americans achieving real dreams under Trump's leadership. Trump himself delivered a masterclass in media manipulation when asked about Chinese students at Harvard. Watch him expose how Harvard refuses to provide lists of foreign students while taking hundreds of millions from China. The president's message is crystal clear. Watch.
What's your message to Chinese college students in the United States that want to stay in the United States, don't want their visa revoked?
Well, they're going to be okay. It's going to work out fine. We just want to check out the individual students. And that's true with all colleges. And I don't know why Harvard's not giving us the list. There's something going on because Harvard's not giving us a list. They ought to give us a list and get themselves out of trouble. But they don't want to give the list because they have names on there that supposedly are quite bad. We want people that can love our country and take care of our country and cherish our country. And for some reason, Harvard doesn't want to give us a list.
Harvard doesn't want to give the list because they have names on there that are quite bad. Trump knows exactly what's happening. Meanwhile, Democrats are in complete meltdown mode. Hakeem Jeffries went full hysteria, claiming people will literally die if the one big beautiful bill passes. Watch this unhinged rant that shows just how desperate Democrats have become.
This bill actually hurts everyday Americans in order to reward billionaires. It would strip away health care from approximately 14 million Americans. Premiums, co-pays, and deductibles for tens of millions more will go up. Actually, if it ever were to be implemented into law, hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, and people will literally die.
You said people gonna die? Okay, Jar Jar. Everything he said is a complete lie. The bill actually protects health care for American citizens while cutting off illegals. Representative Jasmine Crockett pushed the same tired reverse Robin Hood narrative, claiming that Trump's stealing from the poor. Watch her dishonest spin get exposed. The bill stops illegals from stealing benefits meant for vulnerable Americans. Watch.
So the idea that you would go through and you would like gut critical things that literally people rely on to live. Also that say maybe somebody can go and buy yet another jet or another yacht. It just doesn't seem right because it isn't right. This is literally a reverse Robin Hood of literally stealing from those that need resources the most and giving it to those that are rich.
Yeah, so she could buy another wig. She thinks protecting American benefits from illegal alien theft is somehow stealing. That's Democrat logic at its finest. The steel industry, though, roaring back under Trump's tariffs. Brandon Ferris from the Steel Manufacturers Association reveals how tariffs have already driven $20 billion in American steel investment. And he's going to explain why 50% tariffs are exactly what domestic production needs. Watch.
As far as protecting the domestic steel industry, which is vital for economic security, energy security, national security, we believe that moving the tariffs up to 50% was a very good move.
$20 billion in growth and modernization. That's what happens when you protect American workers from Chinese dumping. Senate Leader John Thune laid out the brutal reality without Trump's bill. American families face a $2.6 trillion tax increase. Watch him spell out exactly what's at stake. Child tax credit cut in half, standard deduction slashed, average families hit with $1,700 more in taxes.
Family, obviously, you would see, if Congress does enact a huge tax increase next year, about a $2.6 trillion tax increase. The child tax credit would go from $2,000 today back to $1,000. The standard deduction would, which now it would be cut in half. So you'd see a very direct impact. And in fact, depending on how many kids you have, it could be a very significant impact. But, the average family that makes $80,000 a year is going to see a $1,700 tax increase if Congress does enact.
An $80,000 family income means $1,700 more in taxes if Congress doesn't act. That is the Democrat plan for America. Now, a Maine small business owner perfectly captured why Trump's coalition includes working Americans. She started on her back porch, now employs 5 people, and could hire more with tax relief. Watch her explain what tax cuts mean for real job creators.
I'm a small business owner in Maine. I started my company on my back porch. Now I employ 5 people in my 10-room warehouse. With a tax cut, I can employ a lot more. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist. I develop tools to treat problems of the jaw. Small business owners pay a lot of money in taxes. It's another full-time job for me. If I got a tax cut, I could hire more people. I could pay their salaries. I could expand my business.
Join the fight and send a letter to your senators at taxcutsnow.com.
Taxcutsnow.com, right? 78% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck while small businesses drown in taxes, and Trump is fixing both problems. Stephen Miller also dove deep into the health revolution that's happening under RFK Jr.'s leadership. Watch him expose how government nutrition advice has been fake for generations, creating diseases of civilization that don't exist in the natural world. Take a look.
The reality is that what has been fake for generations now is the medical and nutrition advice that so much of this government has been giving our families. And, we saw, of course, during COVID with fake rules about from the so-called experts about masking and social distancing and everything else, or pretending that there's the same risk profile for a healthy 4-year-old kid as an elderly and obese person. The Maha report is the most significant and important breakthrough moment in terms of prioritizing prevention, underlying health, answering and asking the right questions. Why are there such persistently high rates of pediatric cancer in this country? And why have they increased so significantly since 1970? Why are pediatric cancer rates so much higher in the developed world than the developing world? Why do you even have a concept called diseases of civilization? I think you've all heard that concept before, right? Where in the most developed countries, you have such high incidences of cancer, of immunological disorders, right? In other words, things like celiac disease, food allergies, eczema, psoriasis, gut disorders. You have so many quality of life disorders that can actually be crippling and debilitating, right? In other words, some of these disorders can completely degrade in the person's entire quality of life permanently with no known cures. They can treat these things with, like Crohn's disease, for example. They can treat these things with steroids. They can try to mitigate the symptoms, but there's no path out for millions of Americans. What is causing young babies in this country to have these crippling allergic reactions or immune systems that don't fire properly? They underreact to certain illnesses. They overreact to other illnesses. And we don't see these same things in the natural world and other primates. And so the report, which took just such extraordinary courage, and I'm so grateful to Bobby, in talking about the chemical load in our society, the chemical load that a child accrues from the day they're born,
in terms of everything that they touch and interact with in the world, the complete denuding of our food supply, in other words, the eradication of all living things, all natural things from our food supply in the form of these ultra-processed foods, so that children are living a life where they're not having access to anything natural, they're not having access to anything that's healthy. Everything they do have is loaded up with insane amounts of sugar. For years, I still think it's the case. If you went to like a store and looked at baby food, it's filled with sugar. Why are people putting sugar into baby food? And how many children's snacks, right, are filled with dyes, artificial ingredients, and massive amounts of sugar? What is this doing to a young body from the day they're born? Combined again with all the chemical exposures, the incredibly accelerated growth and compression of the overall vaccine schedule from even when I was a kid. Parents have questions. They want to know, again, why do their kids have these chronic health conditions? Why do they go to the hospital when they're sick? Instead of just, in other words, they have like a common cold. Why is it sending them to the hospital? Why is their immune system firing wrong? Why is it that that foods that people have eaten for thousands of years are suddenly causing these crippling allergies in children? Why is it these high and persistent rates of obesity that is no precedent in history amongst our young people? What are the effects and the cost to our healthcare system over time when you have these high rates of chronic illnesses, heart disease, obesity, lung disease, asthma? Like, what are the effects of these on a society, both financially, personally, quality of life? Why is it that a person from the developing world has a lower cancer rate than an American does? I mean, on average, right? But within a single generation, their family has the exact same cancer rate, likelihood of getting cancer, as the American population. These are questions that no one has wanted to ask or explore or assess, and thank God that Bobby is doing so.
Thank God he is. It's a great question. Why do American kids have cancer rates that don't exist in developing nations? Miller and RFK are asking questions nobody wanted answers. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is right now. This isn't just political realignment. It's the complete demolition of everything that failed conservatism for decades. Trump hasn't captured the Republican Party. He has rebuilt it from the ground up. Working families, small businesses, steel workers, homeowners, they are all Trump Republicans now because he delivers results, not rhetoric. The establishment thought they could outlast him, undermine him, assassinate him, return to their comfortable corruption. Instead, they're watching their entire worldview get incinerated. Democrats losing their monopoly on the middle class after 40 years, that's not a fluke. That is the new reality. Every poll, every policy victory, every transformed life proves the same thing. The old political rules are dead. Trump killed them. The MAGA movement isn't the future of the Republican Party. It is the Republican Party. So here's my question. Is there any establishment Republican left worth saving? Any rhinos out there? Can they be saved? Simply yes or no. Sound off below. And Patriots, you want to gear up, support the Next News Network, go to shop.nextnewsnetwork.com and check out our gear. Okay, so you guys all said it was Thomas Jefferson was the answer. It was actually George Washington. You guys are totally failing tonight. I think you guys are like, I think you're 3 for 3 so far. Yeah, George Washington. Washington's farewell address, warning about partisan revenge, perfectly predicted today's Democrat meltdowns over Trump's historic party realignment. All right, we got some more history for you. After the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which immigration loophole allowed the terrorist mastermind Ramzi Youssef to enter the United States? A, he claimed asylum at JFK Airport without any documents. B, he entered on a student visa and overstayed. C, he crossed the Mexican border illegally. Or D, he was sponsored by a U.S. university. Answer in the poll, in the chat, or in the comments. All right, let's get into our next topic tonight. It's the horrifying footage that will haunt you forever. 6 elderly Jews age 67 to 88, set ablaze by a makeshift flamethrower while peacefully rallying for Israeli hostages. Their attacker, an illegal immigrant terrorist who should have never been in America. But this massacre isn't just about one monster with Molotov cocktails screaming "Free Palestine." It's about the Democrat politicians who called for violence, who demanded Republicans know peace, who fantasized about assassination. What happened in Boulder was inevitable when you opened borders to jihadists while encouraging political violence. The blood is on their hands. Watch and remember who enabled this terror, and we're going to break it all down. While Democrats call for violence and import terrorists who burn our elderly, your children face a different threat: leftist indoctrination in schools. The Tuttle Twins magazine teaches kids real economics, liberty, and personal responsibility through engaging comics and activity. As Boulder burns from Biden's open borders, arm your children with truth about freedom, free markets, and why America must be defended. Don't let schools brainwash them into hating their country while terrorists attack our streets. You can subscribe for just $56 a year at TuttleTwins.com/next. I'm a subscriber. My family loves them. You can get them for your kids, your grandkids, because remember, freedom is only one generation from extinction. Protect your kids' minds before it's too late. Now, before we examine the Boulder terror attack, Americans need to see exactly who encouraged this violence. Democrats didn't just oppose Trump. They explicitly called for blood in the streets. Watch this. This is Illinois Governor Pritzker demanding that Republicans cannot know a moment of peace through mass protests and disruption. Watch.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. That we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. Those words age like poison when Boulder started burning. But Pritzker was just the beginning. This shocking montage reveals the systematic Democrat campaign of violent rhetoric, from Hakeem Jeffries calling to fight in the streets to celebrities fantasizing about assassination. Watch the proof of who really incites violence in America. Watch.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be? Does one of us have to come out alive?
Press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school, I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish.
If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
I'll meet him in a hotel room any motherfucking day of the week and give him a Louisville Slugger. Kiss my motherfucking ass, you bitch punk sucker.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
When they go low, we kick them.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage. Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
Yes! I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
We are watching a rally right now. Former President Trump was just in the middle of his speech when what sounded like possible shots were fired. We saw the former president take cover.
Breaking news, former President Donald Trump is safe and a 20-year-old shooter is dead after a shocking assassination attempt on the former president in Pennsylvania.
We begin tonight with the breaking news and the second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
He is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
Let me give you one bottom line. As a former government official, government's going to kill this guy.
He needs to be shot. Stop.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Boy, Michael Bloomberg is so upset that it came out that his gun control group are the ones behind the onion and the lawsuits and all of it, trying to shut down InfoWars. And remember, back in November, they said that they owned it, tried to kick us out of the building. The judge overrode it. It wasn't true.
Fight in the streets, blow up the White House, put a bullet in Trump, and they call us extremists. The violence Democrats encouraged came home to roost at the Capitol Jewish Museum. 2 Israeli embassy staff were shot and killed by Elias Rodriguez, a 30-year-old who absorbed years of leftist hate. Watch this brief, brutal report.
No. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
2 embassy workers dead because Democrats normalize violence against anyone supporting Israel. Now to Boulder and the terrorists who should have never been here. Mohamed Sabry Soliman entered LAX on August 27, 2022 on a tourist visa. He was supposed to leave by February of 2023. Instead, Biden's non-enforcement let him disappear into America. Now, here is a comprehensive report from the FBI. Watch.
We're early in the investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohamed Sabry Soliman, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder Police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism. Sadly, attacks like this are becoming too common across the country. This is an example of how perpetrators of violence continue to threaten communities across our nation. It's our job, the FBI, the Boulder Police, and our law enforcement and community partners, to bring these criminals to justice and keep our communities safe.
6 elderly Americans burned alive by an illegal who overstayed during Biden's open border free-for-all. Fox News confirmed the reporting with senior DHS sources. Soliman is an Egyptian national here illegally, authorized to stay through 2023 but never left. Watch as they reveal how Biden's refusal to enforce immigration laws enabled this massacre. Watch.
And Paul, you have talked tonight quite a lot about wanting to know about who this individual is, what about his travel, what about his background. And we can break to our viewers now, per 3 senior DHS and ICE sources to Fox, according to our colleague Bill Malusian doing some great work, that he is an Egyptian national who is in the U.S. illegally because of a visa overstay who came during the Biden administration. Mohamed Sabry Soliman first flew into the U.S., according to these 3 sources of the DHS and ICE, flew into the U.S. on August of 2022 at LAX. He was authorized to stay through 2023, but never left. A little bit of more details coming into this, but you were very interested to learn as much as you can about Soliman's background.
Yeah, and, so obviously one of the talking points is going to be the fact that he would not have been here and should not have been here if we were actually enforcing our immigration laws. I think for the purposes of the investigation now and the prosecution and what charges are brought, et cetera, what they're going to be particularly interested in is any of the contacts that he had back home. He's here now. It's about 3 years. So any conversations he had back then may or may not be pertinent. But was he reaching back home? Was he in contact with bad elements overseas? These are the things that those U.S. attorneys that spoke at the press conference and the DA, they're going to be looking at very hard so they can figure which way to go with this investigation. And look, this guy's going to be heavily charged. Where in a way, it almost doesn't matter. He's going to be heavily charged. He's going to be locked up for life. What we really need to do is to look at why it happened, how it happened. Those are the things that are really more important. And actually, some of them are outside the purview of investigators and the police. And the fact that we have the stuff going on these campuses and that the administrations, whether it's Columbia or Harvard or any of them, seem to just shrug. These are the things that I think as a society, more importantly, we have to be looking at.
And officials saying that this cannot happen, will not happen. Again, Paul Morrow, former NYPD inspector and Fox contributor. Paul, thank you for your insights. So helpful tonight.
There you have it. Fox confirming he was here illegally. He should have left. But of course, it was all because of Biden's open borders free-for-all. He wouldn't have been here if we enforced our laws. Those 6 elderly victims would still be with us. MSNBC immediately went into cover-up mode, playing dumb about when he arrived and whether he was legal, after originally calling him a white male. Watch their pathetic attempt to memory hole that this was an illegal immigrant terror attack. Watch.
Sure, Chris. So this individual is a Egyptian national. Not clear immediately when he arrives in the United States. We're still working on that, and whether or not he is still allowed to be in this country, and whether or not he came into the country legally, and whether or not, if he did come into the country legally, if he was still allowed to be here. In other words, did he overstay a visa, or was he here legally and arrived legally? Those are all the details we're still trying to figure out. We have enough experience doing this that we know that sometimes those records can be a little bit difficult to kind of pull all together. Some of the other things that we're learning, and I really do need to stress, it's early in this investigation, and all this information may change as investigators continue to pour through the records that they can find, be able to get their search warrants out there and do the type of work that they need to do. But at this early juncture, he does have some social media accounts, but we're told that those accounts really don't reference today's events and don't have some sort of specific ideology. So sometimes we've seen in the past people conduct attacks, extremist attacks, all sorts of different ideologies, and there you can see a specific time period where they start to kind of espouse those views. You can see other times where they start to speak specifically about an
Okay, so they knew exactly when he arrived and that he's illegal. They just don't want Americans to know that Biden caused this. And the horrifying details emerge. He used a flamethrower and Molotov cocktails while screaming, "Free Palestine." This is the raw footage of pure jihad on American soil targeting elderly Jewish people at a peaceful rally held for hostages held by Hamas. Watch.
We're here, brother. We're here. We can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing. We can. Not here. You have to answer this. Not here, bro. You're not.
People are taking video right now. He was wearing an orange suit with like something on his back. Spraying alcohol. But what he did was he made it look like he was here.
He's making Molotov cocktails.
So he was wearing orange like a landscaper to blend in, armed with accelerants and fire, premeditated jihad terrorism. The FBI finally admitted what we all knew. This was targeted terrorism. Here's more from the press conference confirming he yelled "Free Palestine" while torching innocent elderly Americans. The victims aged from 67 to 88 years old.
I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohamed Sabry Soliman, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder Police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Free Palestine while burning the elderly. That's Biden's America, where illegal terrorists fulfill Democrat death wishes. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Boulder proves everything we warned about has come true. Democrats spent years calling for violence, demanding Republicans be attacked, fantasizing about assassinations. They opened our borders, welcomed jihadists, and called it compassion. Now 6 elderly Jews lie in hospital burn units because an illegal immigrant terrorist acted on their rhetoric. This is not isolated, it's systematic. From the Capitol Jewish Museum murders to Boulder's flamethrower jihad, Biden's America is under attack by the very people Democrats invited in. They called Trump voters domestic terrorists while importing actual terrorists who burn our elderly alive. The media tries to hide it. MSNBC calls Egyptian jihadists white males, but Americans see the truth. Every illegal immigrant crime, every terror attack, every burned victim, that blood is on Democrat hands. So here's what we should ask right now. Should every politician who called for violence be held accountable for Boulder? Yes or no in the comments. If you want to support our work here at the Next News Network, just head on down to shop.nextnewsnetwork.com and grab a hat and wear it proudly. Okay, let's go to our trivia answer. You guys said B, student visa over there. Let's see if you guys were right. Oh, no. You guys are wrong again. After the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which immigration loophole allowed the terrorist mastermind Ramzi Youssef to enter the United States? It was A. He claimed asylum at JFK Airport without any documents. You guys said B. He exploited the same loophole in 1992 that Biden expanded, proving Democrats never learn from terror attacks. All right, now our next trivia question. During the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act debate, which president warned that without strong interior enforcement, amnesty would create an uncontrollable flood of illegal immigration? Was it A, Jimmy Carter, B, Ronald Reagan, C, George H.W. Bush, or D, Gerald Ford? Answer in the poll, or in the chat, or in the comments below. The images are absolutely electrifying. Federal agents in tactical gear surrounding sanctuary buildings, violent criminals in handcuffs being dragged from their hideouts, liberal mayors watching helplessly as their illegal alien protection rackets crumble. What you're witnessing isn't just immigration enforcement, it's the complete dismantling of the criminal sanctuary system that Democrats built to defy federal law. From Massachusetts to Texas, from courthouses to congressional offices, ICE is everywhere. The criminal aliens have nowhere left to hide. The numbers are staggering. Operations are surgical, and the message is crystal clear. The free ride is over, so get ready for justice. And while ICE restores law and order to our cities, there's another threat to American sovereignty, our collapsing food supply. Grocery bills up 40%, shortages everywhere, but the real crisis, our honeybee population is vanishing. Patriot Bee is fighting back, protecting the pollinators that keep America fed. This veteran-owned movement funds bee habitat restoration and educates patriots about food security threats. When you support patriotbebest.com, you're defending our agricultural independence from globalist control. Subscribe now with code NEXTNEWS for 25% off of monthly contributions, and join the hive. Protect our bees and preserve the republic. That's patriotbebest.com. Catch the buzz today. Okay, so the most shocking footage we've got comes from Jerry Nadler's own Manhattan office. Homeland Security agents arrested one of his staffers in a building shared with an immigration courthouse. Watch as federal officers assert their authority while Nadler's people melt down in real time. Watch.
No, she did not. That is not what happened.
That is not what happened.
Fuck.
Okay.
What?
Hold on a second.
Give me your contact information right now.
No, I'm going to give you time to speak to you.
Hey.
That's what I'm
I'll
going to
speak
do.
to you after. We got you.
No.
I got you.
You're
okay.
I don't have to.
You're okay. You're okay. You're going to be okay.
I'm a federal officer. We're here checking on something. We have the right to check. I'm giving you. I'm not resisting. Stop resisting. You harboring rioters in the office. So there's not a problem. Let's walk inside. Let's walk through.
For what?
Let me see what's in here.
Listen, it's your office.
Let's go. Come on.
You need to stay.
Hold it there.
Stop resisting while arresting Nadler's staffer. The swamp is learning federal law enforcement is back in charge. Dallas Immigration Court became ground zero for ICE's new strategy. Agents waited for bogus asylum claims to be dismissed, then immediately arrested the fraudsters. Watch asylum seekers crying and begging as their scam collapses and they're led away in handcuffs. Watch.
We captured the moment two men went from migrants to detainees. It happened last week at Dallas Immigration Court when nearly a dozen people showed up to have their asylum cases heard. Their cases were dismissed by the judge, and when they walked out of the courtroom, plainclothes federal agents were waiting to take them into custody. Immigration attorney Belinda Arroyo says targeting migrants at the courthouse used to be a rare event.
What does it do when an ICE agent is in the court and they're not dealing with somebody who's currently in ICE custody?
Well, I think it makes everybody be on edge.
It's not just happening in Dallas. Asylum seekers in San Antonio were seen crying and begging for help as they were led away in handcuffs. Two Department of Homeland Security officials tell CBS News ICE is asking immigration judges across the country to dismiss the court cases of certain migrants so the agency can arrest them once their hearings end and place them in a fast-track deportation process known as expedited removal. Outside a Miami courthouse, this migrant in cuffs says in Spanish, "It's a trap." The Department of Homeland Security released this statement to CBS News, saying Secretary Noem is reversing Biden's catch-and-release policy that allowed millions of unvetted illegals.
It's a trap. That's what one migrant warns in Spanish. You're damn right it's a trap for criminals gaming the system. Massachusetts just witnessed the largest ICE operation in history. Operation Patriot netted 1,461 arrests in a single month. Of those, 790 had criminal convictions or charges. Watch the stunning report on how ICE dominated despite zero cooperation from sanctuary officials. Watch.
In the meantime, in Massachusetts, you had, I think, the largest ever raid, or at least netting of arrests of 1,461 people. That's the largest so far. And those that were arrested, 790 of them had criminal convictions. And 277 had what we were just talking about, final orders of removal or deportation. Tell us more.
No, and Dana, it was a great operation, and the fact that it was over the course of a month really shows the commitment of the men and women of ICE here in Massachusetts and all over New England. And we took a whole-of-government approach. We used all of our partners to include diplomatic security, the U.S. Marshal Service, ATF, FBI, DEA, to really locate and arrest these criminal aliens. One highlight for this operation is the fact that it was successful because we worked with our joint partners in a sanctuary state like Massachusetts, where it's extremely difficult. Where we had Operation Tidal Wave last month in Florida, there was a week-long operation working with our state partners. That's a state that cooperates with us. Here in Massachusetts, we don't have any cooperation from the local departments or from the state, which makes it extremely difficult for ICE to get out there and find these bad guys.
The fourth largest economy in the world if Massachusetts was a country, and ICE just cleaned house without any local help. National Border Patrol Council VP Art Del Cueto, I think I'm saying his name correctly, celebrates the massive operation that should serve as an eye-opener to sanctuary states. Watch as he explains why communities harboring criminals need to look in the mirror and ask if they really want rapists and murderers as neighbors. Watch.
You and I were down at the Arizona border in late 2023, watching thousands of people come across the border in Lukeville every single day. You worked the front lines. You watched all these people come in. Now, change in administration, we're watching ICE try to get these folks out. Your reaction to this huge operation in Massachusetts?
I think it's fantastic that we have an administration that's taking it serious and actually going after the interior enforcement and individuals that have been here for quite some time. But you know what, Bill? This should serve as an eye-opener to the people out there. This is a place where they've said they're okay with the individuals in their state. It's become a sanctuary, haven for a lot of these criminals. This should be an eye-opener and for them to look at themselves in the mirror and say, do we really want these individuals with serious criminal backgrounds living in our communities?
Sanctuary havens for criminals just discovered there's a new sheriff in town. He's not playing games. The same operation made headlines across multiple networks, over 1,400 illegals arrested, with the majority having serious criminal backgrounds. Watch how this month-long operation proves ICE can overcome any sanctuary city's resistance. Watch.
In the meantime, in Massachusetts, you had, I think, the largest ever raid, or at least netting of arrests of 1,461 people. That's the largest so far. And those that were arrested, 790 of them had criminal convictions, and 277 had what we were just talking about, final orders of removal or deportation. Tell us more.
No, and Dana, it was a great operation, and the fact that it was over the course of a month really shows the commitment of the men and women of ICE here in Massachusetts and all over New England. And we took a whole-of-government approach. We used all of our partners to include diplomatic security, the U.S. Marshal Service, ATF, FBI, DEA, to really locate and arrest these criminal aliens. One highlight for this operation is the fact that it was successful because we worked with our joint partners in a sanctuary state like Massachusetts, where it's extremely difficult. Where we had Operation Tidal Wave last month in Florida, there was a week-long operation working with our state partners. That's a state that cooperates with us. Here in Massachusetts, we don't have any cooperation from the local departments or from the state, which makes it extremely difficult for ICE to get out there and find these bad guys.
The whole-of-government approach, using FBI, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, this is what winning the war on criminal aliens looks like. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons dropped a bombshell. Daily arrests are now over 1,600, the highest levels of this administration, and it's about to get much bigger. Watch him promise this is only the beginning of enforcing every immigration law on the books. Watch.
And it really seems like ICE operations have ramped up in the last week or so all across the country. We're hearing from ICE contacts that your guys' arrests right now are at the highest levels they've been during this administration so far. What are your daily arrest numbers looking like right now?
Bill, every day the men and women of ICE are out there doing their law enforcement duty. And, under Secretary Noem and under President Trump's administration, we're actually allowed to enforce all the laws that are on the books. So right now we're sitting at just over 1,600 arrests a day. ICE can do more. We will do more. There are more public safety threats and criminal aliens out there that we need to get. There are so many gotaways that were released at the border last time, and there are just so many criminal aliens there in our current jail systems that ICE needs to go and make these arrests. So you're going to see an increase as we're going forward, because now we're actually allowed to do our jobs.
You're going to see an increase. Sanctuary cities should be terrified because ICE is just getting warmed up. DHS isn't tolerating attacks on their officers anymore. Nashville's mayor just docks ICE agents, publishing their names and addresses. Watch as officials expose how this endangers undercover officers and hands intelligence to MS-13 and cartels on a silver platter. Watch.
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. And we actually just saw the Nashville mayor, O'Connelly. He just released the names of Homeland Security investigators, which many times are undercover. He docks them, docks their addresses. This is like handing two members of Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and gang members on a silver platter intelligence so that they can go after our ICE enforcement officers. These are the tip of the spear. These are the people who are on the front lines trying to make our communities safer. So when Democrats in the media show us who they are, we'll believe them. And it's the fact that they're fighting for people like MS-13 and child rapists to be on American streets.
Well, these communities should be sending roses to DHS headquarters for finally doing the job that, frankly, most Americans wanted done a long time ago. Tricia, thank you very much for the update on all this.
Democrats are literally giving gang members the home addresses of ICE agents. They're siding with cartels over American law enforcement. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. It's time for my final thought. This is what America voted for, and it's beautiful. Every arrest, every raid, every crying criminal in handcuffs represents promises kept. Democrats built a criminal protection network disguised as compassion. They called it sanctuary. You know what we call it? We call it treason. Now their whole system is collapsing. Jerry Nadler's own office raided. Dallas courthouses surrounded. Massachusetts conquered despite their resistance. Over 1,600 arrests daily and accelerating. The footage doesn't lie. ICE owns the streets now. For years, criminal aliens laughed at our laws, murdered our citizens, stole our benefits. Democrat mayors protected them, doxed our agents, sided with cartels. Well, that era is dead. Trump promised mass deportations, and he's delivering with surgical precision. Every sanctuary city will fall. Every criminal will be hunted. Every protection racket will be smashed. So here's the question. Should mayors who harbor criminal aliens be arrested for treason? Yes or no? And patriots, gear up at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. I think you'll like the stuff we have there. Okay, you guys said it was B, Ronald Reagan. Let's see if you got it right. And it was B, Ronald Reagan. During the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act debate, during the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act debate, which President warned that without strong interior enforcement, amnesty would create an uncontrollable flood of illegal immigration, Ronald Reagan. Yes, Reagan himself warned that amnesty would, without enforcement, would fail, yet signed it anyway, creating the very crisis Trump is now fixing with mass deportations. There you go. There you go. All right, we're at $49 in Super Chats, and we are going to check in with the main feed and see what's happening on the in the news. Let's see here. See if we can bring this over here. Big chat. There we go. Thank you, Brian. Let's see. 9 hours ago, rapid response. Biden administration launched an all-out attack on the gig economy, requiring that Venmo, PayPal, and other gig transactions over 600 be reported. The One Big Beautiful Bill repeals this insane requirement. Thank God. Drama alert. Woke is officially dead. Thank God. Colin Rugg, 19-year-old student, reportedly has a panic attack and unbuckles her seatbelt while parasailing in Montenegro. Oh, no. Tino Rajanak sadly passed after falling into the Adriatic Sea from 160 feet in the air. The owner of the parasailing company says she was in a cheerful mood. Are you serious? Why? I mean, really? You're just going to undo everything and just... Oh, my goodness. That's so sad. Okay, Insider Paper, 9 hours ago, the odds of a nuclear bomb-sized meteor strike are rising, and there's a 1 in 3 chance it could happen in 2025. Lovely. USA ID paperwork found in the Boulder, Colorado migrant attacker vehicle along with 14 Molotov cocktails and a flamethrower. Democrats bought and paid for domestic terrorist attacks. Wow. Tommy Laren. This is cringeworthy. I have second-hand embarrassment just watching it. What's this? Oh, no.
Hey, Congressman.
Trying to help you?
What the fuck is up with Trump always chickening out on tariffs?
It is cringeworthy. All right, what are you guys saying in the chat room? Let's say hello. Okay. No, it's not going to happen. Dirk. HTTP healthwithgary.com. That's one of our links. PayPal donate. Thank you, Sabrina, for that. I got it right, says Lori. Wonderful. Wonderful. What's going on in the chat room? It's blowing up over there. The questions are meant to be hard. Yes, Karen. Yes, they are. Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. That's well said. Patricia. Oh, hell yes. Arrest anyone who has anything to do with allowing illegals in or to stay. This is why we can never have a Democrat president again. Yes. Karen Finley, great show. Thank you. Michael, hello from Pennsylvania. But Michael, you got to change that. You got to change that profile icon, man. You got to change that, man. No, we can't have Bush on the show. No way. You got to change that. Do us all a favor. Okay. All right, guys. That's the show for tonight, and what you've witnessed isn't just news. It's the complete transformation of America happening before our eyes. From the streets of Massachusetts for ICE arrested 1,461 criminals, to the Sunday shows where Trump's economic team destroyed every Democrat lie, to the horrific terror attack in Boulder that proved why border security is national security. This is week 19 of promises made, promises kept. Florida just fired the first shot in the monetary revolution that we've been fighting for since those End the Fed rallies 15 years ago. Gold and silver are legal tender again. The Federal Reserve's monopoly is cracking, and Daniel Diaz showed us exactly how patriots can defeat the banking cartel state by state. Texas followed immediately. 10 more states are mobilizing. The dollar's days of dominance are numbered. The establishment media tried to bury every one of these stories. They called Boulder's terrorist a white male when he was an illegal Egyptian jihadist. They claimed Trump's economy would collapse while inflation drops and deficits shrink. They said sanctuary cities were untouchable while ICE storms congressional offices. They swore Americans would never abandon fiat currency while Florida makes gold legal tender. Wrong, 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 and wrong again. Folks, you made this possible by sharing these streams and bypassing their algorithms and supporting independent media. Everybody who sent in super chats tonight, you have kept us alive while they tried to silence us. Everyone who sent it in, thank you so much. The revolution is not coming, my friends. It's here. Democrats called for violence and got their cities raided instead. They predicted economic doom and got historic growth. They promised to resist and got completely steamrolled. Every prediction they made has exploded in their faces. So thank you to everybody who sent in super chats and rebel rants. Thank you for making us your trusted news source. Thank you for standing with us against censorship, against lies, against the entire corrupt system. Remember to hit up shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Show the world where you get your real news. Tell your friends, text the show, spread it everywhere. This is Gary Franchi reminding you that we are not just reporting the news, we are making history together. The border being secure, the economy roaring, sound money returning, the terrorists being hunted, the establishment crumbling, and we're just getting started. We'll see you next time on the Raw Feed, where truth isn't just spoken, it's unleashed. So stay strong, stay vigilant, and never stop fighting for the Republic. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
American